Yeah, so we had two stars that had trouble getting the ball in the last couple of games, but tonight one star that did not have any issue getting his shots up. Jaden Ivey finished with 26 points, 6 assists, and 4 boards as Purdue rolled over Illinois 84-68. They outscored them by 20 points in the second half, and we now have a three-way tie at the top of the Big Ten. So, Arch, I know you're the Big Ten guy on this show. Talk to me a little bit about Purdue. How impressed were you with this performance tonight?
Very impressed. I'm not surprised, though. It's late in the year. The Big Ten race is on. And when you go into Mackey right now, you're dealing with all the elements. As good as Bud Walton was tonight, Mackey was equally as hard to play in. And one thing about Purdue, they always get better at their weaknesses as the season goes along. And tonight, playing against a really good Illinois team, they defended. They held them to 41% from the floor, 30% from three. And Trent Frazier goes 1 for 7. And if you look at their line across the board, even Plummer, who was a little bit better, was the only other double-figure scorer in the game other than Curbelo. They had 3 guys, but I thought Purdue did a great job defensively. And Jaden Ivey rose to the occasion tonight. He got 26. Yes. He was dominant in the second half. And to me, the Big Ten championship, I've been saying it, I think it'll continue to go through Purdue because of that home court advantage that they have.
Yeah. So, Sean, we did some film studies earlier this season on the Next Play podcast, the podcast that you guys host, on Jaden Ivey. What makes him so special as a player? Why is he so difficult to guard?
Well, Rob, Arch put that together, and the point that he made throughout the podcast when we were going over Purdue is just how important Jaden Ivey is in 2 critical areas for Purdue: in transition and at the end of the clock. And if you think about, as we move closer and closer to March, how important those areas are, because in transition, it's the team who gets the most easy baskets has the best chance of winning the game. And in sometimes Jaden Ivey, he's like a one-man fast break. I mean, and Arch talked about it, whether it's him catching an outlet, him getting his own rebound. Sometimes, Rob, it's his teammates finding him up the sideline. Very seldom does he even use a ball screen. He's just coming at you kind of like Russell Westbrook, and he gets fouled, he scores, he finds his teammates. And that's an element that I think even with Matt and Purdue's best teams, that they haven't always had. He gives them something that's unique and different. And then the last part, and you saw it in a little bit tonight's game, against Illinois' pressure, they just gave him the ball in the middle of the floor and allowed him to attack, to score, make his teammates better. And when they're going, like we talked about earlier with Auburn and Duke, when you, at the end of the game in crunch time, which guy on your team can get fouled, score, make good decisions against any defense? And I think Jaden Ivey, is there anybody better in college basketball at that role right there? And you couple that with those big guys, how Matt Painter coaches offense in the structured part of it. And that's why they're America's best offensive team.
No question. If you look at their numbers tonight, fellas, shot 51% against the Big Ten's best defense, shot 41% from 3 and only turned it over 9 times, scored 84 points against Illinois. That's incredible in terms of the way their team played. Their team played a high level game tonight, and this should put them right there at the top of the league, and still chasing Illinois a little bit and Wisconsin. But to me, they're the team to beat.
Rob, yeah. I would bring this up. We had Ken Palm on the podcast, and sometimes he creates these emotional debates on you're relying too much on him, not enough. This is wrong, this is right. But his numbers don't lie. I mean, they've checked out over a decade, right? But the one thing that he said,
can you tell
really
Jeff Goodman that? Can you
What's
please
that?
make sure? Can you make sure that Jeff Goodman knows that? I hope he's listening. You hear that,
we
Jeff?
won't even count his. Goodman's all emotion. Ken Palm is all fact-based science. Big difference, right? Yes. But he said this, and it really resonated with me. Great offense in the NCAA tournament historically over time beats great defense. And Arch, you said it early on. Purdue's, you get caught up in those 2 big guys, Jaden Ivey. How about their overall team's 3-point shooting?
Yeah.
I mean, they've been in and around 40% or even higher for a period of time. and they're playing a tough schedule. They're in the Big Ten. They're on the road. It's February.
They're third in the
Think about-
country.
Rob, think about how bad of a night they'd have to have, right, in March to not be good on offense. I mean, think about all the different things they have going for them, which, when you're 40+% from 3-point, how about if they got hot over a 2-week period of time? And I think that's what's so exciting about following Purdue.
Yeah, I'll hit you guys with this then. So I actually ran the numbers on this once a couple of years ago, and the team that had the lowest KenPom defensive rating to win the national title in the KenPom era, which dates back to 2001, was North Carolina in 2009, the year that they had Tyler Hansbrough, and I think that was the Ty Lawson team and Wayne Ellington and all those guys. They were 39th in defensive efficiency heading into the tournament, not after the tournament, heading into the tournament. Duke in 2015 was 37th. Purdue right now is 111th before tonight. It's going to go up tonight because they were terrific defensively in the second half. So I'll pose it to you guys like this. You don't have to be a great defensive team to win, but is Purdue a good enough defensive team to go out and win 6 games in March? You think so?
They are. They have the coach. They have the fabric in terms of how they prepare. It's not like you watch them play in one game, they look one way, another game, they look another. They're built a certain way. You're playing with 2 really big players for 40 minutes at one position at the 5. You deal with a lot of pick and pop 5s at times or space teams. And I don't believe that their best defenders are always on the floor on the perimeter because they're valuing that 41% 3-point shooting around those big guys each game. They need that spacing. But a guy like Eric Hunter is playing a lot more right now coming down the stretch. They need his defense. And I think that Mason Gillis, and you saw Caleb First play a lot more tonight, a bigger body at the 4. So I think the way that they're built as a program, how they prepare, I wouldn't be surprised if their stretch run in the next 3 weeks, that 106 doesn't become like 74 or 72, and they start to get into the Big Ten tournament and it turns into the 60s. It could be something like that where Purdue starts to value that end a lot more as they're coming down the home stretch and they grow on that end, which would be scary a little bit for them because of how good they are on offense.
I would say if they fail, though, the reason they'll fail is they'll be unable to get key stops against that team, whoever that team is, and their defense will end up doing them in. I don't see a scenario where any team you pick it can hold them down offensively. They're too efficient. They can do it too many different ways.